My guest on the show today is the host of the Courage to Beat podcast, Tania Vasallo. Tania is also the host of an in-person event called Money Magic Miracles. She helps transform women's limiting beliefs and once led a group of 23 women together to manifest over $1 million in just 60 days. So listen up today for Tania's insights on what you can be doing to create a bit of money, magic, and miracles in your own life.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where we bridge the worlds of the taboo topic of money with the woo-woo world of manifestation. We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz.
We're not just about dollars and cents around here. We're all about lifestyle design. You can be working towards financial independence while still living a life you love today.
Get ready for insightful conversations with guests who have embraced the FIRE movement by achieving financial independence and retiring early, as well as entrepreneurs and individuals who defied the norm and have paved their own way to a life they love.
Together, we'll explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial freedom, and living a purposeful life. And of course, we'll be sharing our own journey to how we carved our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0. Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, where your journey to financial independence and the life you love begins now.
Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Tania.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited to chat with you, and I would love for you to share with the listeners just who you are and what your story is.
Well, let me see how far back I'm going to go with my story. Well, I was born and raised in Spain, so that's important to know because I was born and raised there at the end of Franco's dictatorship. So it was a very patriarchal setup that we had, if we could say in some way, just the system. And then to add to that, I also came from a very patriarchal family. My dad's 7 brothers and 1 sister, and the sister's the youngest. And so already from a young age, I mean, I had a wonderful childhood, but there was like this unspoken language of men are the ones that succeed, or at least that's how I saw it, because it was my uncles that went out there, my dad, that went out, they worked, they succeeded, and the women were basically in a second plane. They were just at home taking care of the kids and not really having careers. And so that was a little bit of my foundation of, well, let me work. And I started my career early on in advertising. I was an art director in advertising in New York City. And I worked for these multi-million-dollar accounts like Starbucks and Samsung, AT&T, Nabisco, just to name a few. And I got tired of the corporate world and started our own little agency. My husband and I moved back to Spain. So we were living in New York and we're like, oh, where should we move next? What do we want to do? And we decided to start our own little agency in Spain. And we lived there for about 4 years, and we offered all kinds of branding and marketing services. But then it was time to come back to the States. And when we came back, we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we continued with the agency for a little bit, but it came to a point where my husband didn't want to do it anymore. He wanted to focus on his own art. And in a way that was good, because when you have 2 creatives running the business at the same time, and we were great at our craft, but no business training, no sales training, we would clash. And so there was that feast and famine. I don't know if you've experienced that, or maybe the listeners as entrepreneurs, like some months would be like, yes, we just signed a contract with this client. And then 2 months later, you're like, oh my God, our savings are dwindling. Maybe we should go get a job. It was just that lack of stability that you can normally get in a corporate job. When my daughter was about maybe 2, 3 years old, I got an invitation from my sister to go out to an event that was taking place in San Diego. She called me up and she's like, I have 2 tickets to this event. You want to come with me? And I'm like, to San Diego, everything's paid for. You just have to get your plane ticket because the hotels, we could share a room, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. What kind of event? And she's like, it's a sales event. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't do sales. I'm a creative, like I'm picturing like this room full of people in suits and ties and like just serious instead of being creative. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna pass on that one. And she's like, no, seriously, we have a hotel room and just think about it. You can step away from mommyhood for a couple days. And I was like, maybe you're right with that. What's the worst that can happen? I could end up hanging out at the pool if I'm not liking it. So I ended up going, and it was awesome. It was not at all what I had pictured. People were not dressed up in suits and ties like I had envisioned. As a matter of fact, I met some amazing people, 6 figures, 7 figures, multiple 6 figure business owners. And that just blew my mind because I was like, wait, you can make that much money? Like I didn't identify with the people that were there because I don't know, the most I'd ever made maybe was like $30,000 working on our own in a year. It piqued my curiosity. Let's put it that way. It's like, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too. So I went from seeing myself as a freelancer to start seeing myself as an entrepreneur and a business owner. And at the end of that event, the event host made an offer to join her year-long mastermind, and I really wanted to do it. It was very pricey for me. It was like a $20,000 investment. I was like, oh my God, I'd never invested that amount of money, except for college, which is funny because for college, you would pay a lot more and it's like justified. But because it wasn't like a accredited college, it's not like it's Harvard or something. But I ended up putting the deposit and I'm like, I'll figure this out. And I joined that mastermind. And within the first like 6 months, I sold like a $5,000 package of my services, which to me was like, oh my God, that is awesome. Like it just boosted my confidence. Then I started having a couple $10,000 months. They weren't all in a row. They were here and there, but I became like the poster child for that mastermind and just wanting to learn. It was just like that saying when they say that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And that's what happened. It's just that my teacher showed up for me. And why reinvent the wheel when she already had the systems of how to do all this? So I went in the first 4 years. I suddenly went and started making a 6 figure revenue. I was like the other people there, and I was only working 20 to 25 hours a week because I had my little one and no social media. And I was like, yes, like I've cracked the code. And in the interim of this, because I was learning how to do this, money is just part of business. Like you're not in business unless there's an exchange of money. So I started getting curious about money too. So there were several factors happening besides the business and making money. I also had a 401k for those that are in Canada. It's like a pension plan here in the States. And so when you leave corporate, by law, you have to roll it over into an IRA. So I needed an institution to go into. I went to Citibank before we moved to Spain and I rolled it over. I met with a random guy that they assign you for your money being rolled over. And so basically I abdicated my power and he just asked me questions like, how risk adverse are you? Are you this? Are you that? And he invested my money in the stock market. When I came back from Spain 4 years later, I was pretty pissed that I had lost money, that my portfolio had not grown. And my husband heard me fuming about this and he said, why don't you call our financial advisor, meaning him and his family, like his parents and siblings. I'd never worked with a financial advisor. And he's like, why don't you call him and ask him for a list of companies with dividends? And that way you can choose what stocks to choose. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, what's a dividend? I had no idea. Like I honestly was so financially illiterate, but I now in hindsight, I also see how much I abdicated my power to this man, not wanting to learn about it. But that was my foundation growing up in Spain. It was never specifically voiced this way, but it was like an unspoken language where the message was, a man is your financial plan. Like get married, find the right guy. And if you don't get married, then maybe your dad or your brother or your uncle will help you with the finances. So the moment I did that and I learned about dividends and what that meant, it felt very empowering. The financial advisor sent me a list of companies, and because I'd worked in advertising, I was like, check, no, like I don't agree with their values, and check, yes, I'm going to invest in this company. So it made me feel very empowered getting to choose and being guided and someone holding my hand as to how I was going to invest. And that was like the beginning of my investment years. And they say it takes approximately 7 years to double your money. And within 10 years, so 3 more years, instead of doubling, I added a zero to my initial investment. And so to me, it was like, yes. And when you start seeing your money working for you instead of you working so hard for the money, I wanted to learn more. And so I started signing up for different paid subscriptions, different financial entities where they do the research for you. I started investing in crypto too. I started learning about crypto. My next step is I'm wanting to invest and learn about real estate investment. What that did for me is getting curious. I started surrounding myself with mentors and teachers in the financial world and learning about investments and how to grow my money. But simultaneously, I also surrounded myself with mentors and teachers that taught about the psychology and the energy of money too, and the relationship we have with money. And from that, I started like learning and growing so much. And because I was already teaching my clients about business and money exchange, and as I'm learning to pass that information on to others, and I launched a program that's called Money Magic Miracles. And in the first cohort, because I knew things were working for me, and I'm a big manifester, I'm a great manifester. But I was like, can I teach this to others? And can it be transmitted? Or is there just something that I know and I have my own tools? So in this first cohort of Money Magic Miracles, we had approximately 20 to 25 people. And within the first 60 days, they manifested over $1.2 million collectively. And it was awesome just seeing that we can all do it collectively. And as a matter of fact, it's almost even better to do it collectively than on your own, because it almost becomes contagious. I wish someone would have been studying this from like a quantum physics or scientific perspective, because I can't tell you how many people in the group had never received an IRS check. And they're like, oh my God, I just got $1,000 check from the IRS. I don't know why they gave me a refund. Then someone else like, oh my God, I've never gotten an IRS check either. And so kind of like yawning or crying, it became contagious. Like one person would get one thing, and then another one in the group a week later, one person sold their home that had been on the market for over a year within that 60-day frame. And then another person sold their home too. I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome to just see all of this. So yeah, that's a little bit of my journey. Whereas I started teaching them about branding and creating a successful brand because I came from the advertising world. Then it became about business. Then it became about money. And now it's still about business and money. I still have some of these programs going on, but also amplifying women's voices through podcasting, because podcasting is my new baby, and we still have a gender gap to close because there's still more men podcasters, more men listeners, and more men guests. So I love doing podcasts like these, Jen, where we have more women and we can amplify our voices and we can get more women listeners into our world. So that's a little bit in a nutshell. That was a little bit longer than I anticipated, but now you get the whole story.
It's fun to listen to your story because I feel like your life has been this staircase. You step up a step and your context expands and you're like, ooh, I didn't know I could do that. I'm going to go do that. Then you step up on the next staircase. Oh, wow, now I can do that. I feel like your story is one where you can just feel you grow and your confidence expanding as your context is expanding to what is possible in the world around you. And I'm similar to you, whereas I felt like money had a really masculine tone and you have to work hard for money. It's the blue collar guys that are making the money. And once I allowed and I mixed it in with manifestation, which for me, manifestation is really feminine. It's fun, it's playful, it's curious. And mixing the two together becomes this new space of empowerment, I guess, where you can set the bar higher, you can raise the bar, you can dream big, and you can go through to bust those glass ceilings and set those big goals. And I'm curious for you, what is your definition of manifestation?
To me, it's holding an image of something in your mind. And so it's in the non-physical world and being able to have it appear in the physical world, whatever that may be. It might be a home, it might be solar panels that I've manifested, it might be going to a networking group and I'm like, oh, I'm winning the raffle. I know it. I've held the picture in my mind and I know that it's coming to me. There's just been so many things. So yeah, it's holding an image in the non-physical. So it's in your imagination and your visualization and being able to hold it in your eyes, in your mind's eye, and then seeing it appear in the physical world.
And you touched earlier, as it's appearing in the physical world, there seems to be all these synchronicities of money almost appearing out of, like, sure, you're working towards your money path, but like you said, people are getting checks in the mail that they weren't expecting to get, or all of these things are coming together, whereas the energy of the collective group of people is almost playing into that and making it more magnetic. When working with clients, do you have tricks or tools that you use to help people come from that place of, I don't have this thing that I have right now, or I don't have the thing that I want? How do you hold the image in your mind of what you want?
That's a great question. Well, there's several layers to it because it's not, I feel like a lot of people watch the movie The Secret, like, oh yeah, I want it, I want it, I want it. And there's so many more layers than just I want it and it's just going to drop out of the sky for me, because you do have to start with a level of awareness of what are my limiting beliefs? How do I relate to money? Like you were saying before, like one of the most common ones that I find with clients is that I have to work hard for money. Like I even still have that. And after decades of working on this and being aware of it, it's like, oop, caught myself right there. Cancel, and let's move forward. That's just one example. I mean, there's so many different money limiting beliefs, from I have to work hard to have money, I'm not deserving of money, or money's for them out there, but not for me, whatever them might be. It might be men, it might be people of a different color or ethnicity, it might be of a different class, whatever your story that you're telling yourself. I've also seen money as people with money are corrupt or are bad. And so what that does is, like, the moment money comes to you, it goes out as fast as it came to you. You might have inherited money, or you maybe get a bonus at work, or you get a salary raise. But if you have the limiting belief that's in your subconscious, so it's not something that you're really conscious about, and you have that subconscious belief that's holding you back, and you're thinking people with money are bad, the moment you get money, you don't want to be bad. So subconsciously, you're going to release it somehow, whether it's a car needs to be repaired, a health bill that you weren't expecting, or you just simply give it to somebody because you're like, yeah, I don't want it. I don't need it. I'll just pass it on. Going back to the question, how do you visualize? I think the first thing you have to do is become aware. What are my limiting beliefs? What are those limiting beliefs, so that you can start paying attention and start finding evidence of the opposite. And then from there, you can start visualizing yourself too. When I was manifesting without really understanding a lot of these principles, I would carve out every day some time to just visualize, to not just meditate and be in quietness, but to truly visualize what it is that I wanted, like indoor tower garden where I'm growing my fruits and veggies, having a home that was like 75% off the grid. And I manifested every single part of it, like the solar panels, because Solar City is not even in our state anymore. That they came in and they had it low interest, it became accessible for me. So sometimes it doesn't even come to you in the form of money, but it's visualize that thing or imagine that thing. If visualize doesn't connect with you as much, but imagine that thing that it is that you want. Because in the end, we all don't want just money for the sake of money. For everyone that's got that goal, oh, I want to be a millionaire. And no, you don't really want it. You want to be a millionaire for what? It's because ask yourself why. Is it for the lifestyle? Is it because you could travel? Is it because you can send your kids to private school? Is it because you can live in a beautiful home in the mountains? Like whatever it is that you're wanting that money for. We don't want money for the sake of money. We want money for something else. So visualize that thing versus visualizing the money. Does that make sense, Jen?
Yeah. You get the feelings behind it, not just think about the money in the bank account, because sometimes people have the money in the bank account, but they don't have the drive or the sight to do something with the money in the bank account. They're just gripping so hard on the money in the bank account that they're not actually enjoying life. So you see that too. I want to go back for a second because you touched on something that I think I gloss over, and that is limiting beliefs. Do you have any advice on somebody who might have blind spots to their limiting beliefs on how to kind of unpack what might be holding them back?
Oh yeah, we all have them. So limiting beliefs we all have, and we all have those blind spots because they've been given to us. Here's the thing, the way the mind works from the moment you're born until about ages 6, 7, 8, your conscious part of the mind is not developed. It's all going into the subconscious mind. And so what does that mean? That's why they say kids are like sponges, because they are perceiving everything through all the five senses. They're hearing, smelling, seeing, tasting, touching. They're having experiences of life through their five senses. But all that information and the meaning that they're giving that information is going right into the subconscious mind. And that's where the beliefs are starting to form. So why do I say that we all have limiting beliefs? Because they've been passed down to us by society, by our culture, by the media, by our parents, by our places of worship. It's fill in the blank. Like if I say money is the root of all evil, it's money doesn't grow on trees. Like just little sentences like this, like just think about it. It's been passed down to us. And then on top of that, you might have other limiting beliefs from your parents or the media. Girls, you don't look pretty enough, so you have to look a certain body shape or type. So all of these are beliefs that we've put onto ourselves from a young age. That's why I'm saying it's not our fault, but we all do have them. And if you don't examine them, what your limiting beliefs are towards money, towards body image, towards success, towards health and wellness, like it's just fill in the blank. I wish we did these exercises at school, but think about it. It would rock a lot of boats, and a lot of parents wouldn't be happy. Because what if you were asking your 10-year-olds, or in your case, your 8-year-old, now that your 8-year-old is starting to form a conscious mind, and you're like, oh, well, what do you believe about God? And if your 8-year-old does not agree with you and what to believe about God, that might upset you a little bit. Or maybe, what do you believe about money? And if it's not in alignment with your beliefs of money, you might not like that or agree with that, because you already have your own limiting beliefs that you're passing down to your own kids. So it's really important to pay attention to this. And if you've never done any type of work about your relationship with money or questioning these limiting beliefs in any area of your life, right now we're talking about money here, but I suggest and invite everyone listening to really pull out a pen and paper or a journal and spend some time and ask yourself the question, why do I believe X, Y, and Z about God or about religion? Why do I believe X, Y, and Z about politics? Where do these beliefs come from? And ask yourself with everything, why do I believe that? And where do those beliefs come from? And you'll start seeing patterns. It'll be like, oh my God, because my mom and dad always said that at home. Oh my God, because I heard it at school day in, day out. So we have to pay attention to this, because no one invites the kids to question those things. And I understand that because we would have to be confronted with our own beliefs as parents when it's almost like the kid would be questioning us, like, well, why are you believing? And I'm, well, I don't know, because that's why. There's a great story. You might have already heard about the roast of the bride. If anyone hasn't heard it, I'll just repeat it. It was like a newly wedded couple, and the husband's asking the woman what she's putting the roast, but she's cutting the ends of the roast when she's putting it into the oven. And the husband's like, well, why are you cutting the ends of the roast to put it into the oven? And the bride's like, I don't know, because that's how my mom did it. And he's like, okay, let's go ask your mom. And so they go to the mom, and they're like, Mom, why do you always cut the ends of the roast when you put it into the oven? Because that's what I've been doing, And she's like, I don't know, because grandma used to cut the ends of the roast and put it in the oven that way. So I went to Grandma, why do you cut the ends of the roast when you put it into the oven? They're trying to trace back, why is everyone doing this and why are we believing this? And Grandma's like, because my roast pan was too small, so I always had to cut the ends to put it into the oven. So here you are 3 generations down doing something that doesn't serve them anymore because of something that happened 2 generations above them. And so that's why I'm saying it's so important to really question, analyze what our beliefs are and where did they come from, like who gave them to us, who passed them on. And it's not to condemn people either. It really is. Like, I always look at, like, my parents did the best they could with the knowledge and the tools that they had. And especially as a mom now, I know my daughter is going to have her own limiting beliefs of certain things, of stuff that I'm passing down to her. I try and be as aware as I can, and hopefully we're breaking those patterns, but it's impossible. The kids are going to question other things, and hopefully she can question more than I did at her age. I invite everyone listening, pull out a pen and paper and just journal about this and ask yourself the questions. What did my mom believe about money? What did my dad believe about money? What did my grandparents on my mom's side believe about money? What did my grandparents on my dad's side believe about money? And you'll start seeing patterns, especially ancestral patterns like this. You have to work hard to make money. That was like an emblem, like a badge of honor in our family. And I can't tell you how much I'm like, I have to go against that now. I'm like, do I really have to work hard to make money? Look at, I added a 0 to the money that I had invested. You see all these people that are out there. See, if that was true, if that belief was actually true, then the people that have 2 and 3 jobs would be the richest people on the planet, and they're not. I invite you to, again, question those beliefs that you have. And if you can do it in partnership with someone else, that they can shine light into those blind spots that you have, it'll be even more powerful, because sometimes you might not even be able to catch them yourself.
Mm-hmm. What I caught in there out of that was I always focus on the what, like, what are my blind spots? What am I working through? And the question you said in there when you phrased it as, why do I have these beliefs? That I was like, ooh, I need to ask myself it in that way, the why instead of the what, because I think I will see a different layer as to why I'm hanging on to some of the things I'm hanging on to. So talking about how we don't get taught this stuff in schools, you have a fun event coming up. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners what that entails.
Yeah, that's the event coming up. I did the first one in May this year, and the second one is going to be now in November 7th, 8th, and 9th in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's the second one in person that I've done in 5 years, because we were doing them all online. And there is so much magic that happens when you do them in person. That's something that I love versus doing them online. But it's called Increase Your Income and Impact, because I'm a big believer that once your basis, your financial needs are taken care of, you can focus on your purpose and having a bigger impact in the world. So our goal for all of us, because money does touch everything, there's no way to avoid money. You have a relationship with money. If you live in this world, unless you live in the Amazons or somewhere remote where you're hunting, fishing, and building your own home, you need to have a relationship with money and have a good relationship with money and paying attention to that. So what we do throughout the event, we touch a lot on money beliefs, like we were just talking right now. We talk on what are those desires that we want, your desire, not a desire that's been passed down to you of what you should want in life. Owning your value so that you can see that you are deserving and that you are capable of generating the income that you need to generate. And then on the third day, we go into impact. And once all of this is taken care of, how much of an impact can we leave behind? And it starts with our immediate family, then it's the impact into our communities, and then to the world at large. It's like, how can we have a bigger impact? The more money you make, the bigger difference you can make in the world. And that's the majority of the women that I tend to encounter. We all want to do better. We want better schools for our kids. We want better health. There is actually a quote that it was from the United Nations, that when 95% of women want to contribute more back into the world, once their needs, their financial needs are taken care of, like they'll make sure they're investing into health, into kids' education, and to nonprofits. And so I'm on a big mission of just reaching out more women. Get out of your own way. Start working with your limiting beliefs. Get into communities like this. Keep on listening to Jen's podcast and start learning more about your capacity. We're better investors too. Women are better investors than men. So let's have you overcome your limiting beliefs and start making more money, attracting more money in every way, shape, and form, and be in other communities that are going to lift you up with other women. That's a little bit of a recap of Increase Your Income and Impact. And it's in November 7th, 8th, and 9th here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And if you can put in the show notes, Jen, I'd love to gift your audience discounted code. You'll get an 80% discount. The early bird ticket, which won't be there much longer, is $500 now. So you can come for as little as $97, or the VIP is what the majority of the people sign up for, $197 for 3 days. And I guarantee you, you will walk out with 10 times the value.
That sounds incredible. And I just need to ask you my all-time favorite question. What is your advice for someone who's wanting to create a life they love?
Go inwards. We're so bombarded nowadays with so much information, and we're always taking in, whether it's social media, emails, and phone calls, and TV, and all the shows, and all these things, that we rarely carve out time for quietness so that we can go within, so that we can ask our questions and be introspective and see. Because when we go into that stillness, then that's when we can ask those questions. What do I want? What do I want to visualize? And when you know what you want, then you can live the life that you want, because you start setting it in that direction. It's like, oh yeah, I want to travel. Oh yeah, I want that home. Or yes, I want to be a digital nomad, whatever it is that you want. But you won't get those answers until you still yourself.
Well said. Thank you for sharing that. And where can the listeners reach out to you to hear more of your goodness?
If you're already listening to Jen's podcast, is hop on over to the Courage to Be podcast. There's always little giveaways and things that I have, but come and listen to the Courage to Be and let me know what you think about the podcast too. It's always nice to hear. So reach out to Jen too and let her know what you think about the podcast.
That sounds great, Tania. I will link that in the show notes for you. And thank you so, so much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, wait, before you go, do you want to increase your income by $1,000 a month? If so, check out our free side hustle guide at www.fourleaflifestyle.com/money ideas. I'll pop it in the show notes for easy access.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Manifestation and Money Podcast. If you enjoyed today's chat, be sure to hit that subscribe button to catch more of our weekly episodes. Until then, cheers to creating a life you love.